Three, two, one.
Hi, this is Drew Grant, and welcome to another episode of Passionfruit Presents. This is not quite the Reactorverse, but something tangential to it. We have with me one of my favorite all-time YouTubers, Nick Nocturne, aka Nightmind. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. I mean, it's so crazy to hear your voice after watching your videos for so long. Nick works mostly in the realm of horror ARGs. Is that how you describe what Nightmind is?
It's how a lot of people would be able to relate it to each other. What I've been saying for a few years now is that I cover unfiction, which is unconventional and non-traditional forms of online storytelling or storytelling and media presentation in general. It's going against the grain of a lot of what is established in terms of movies, TV, games. It's new forms of storytelling and new forms of immersion for fictional approaches.
I mean, it's such a cool space. I don't know how long I've been watching you at this point, but I remember starting with Marble Hornets, one of the early Slenderman Unfiction projects, and then going all the way to stuff going on today, like the back rooms, as you know, just got picked up for distribution. So can you tell me a little bit about like your sort of sense of the space as it's developed throughout the years of unfiction storytelling online?
Well, it's definitely grown. I mean, the what you just mentioned with Kane Pixels and the victory of the backrooms there is a huge testament to how much this has grown and the ability of independent creators doing amazing work online, telling their stories with no real backing by any studios or investors to just make incredible work and then see it hit the heights and gain attention outside of what they're doing and make people take notice and say, hey, can we get in on that and show you everywhere? Which is kind of like the biggest victory besides hitting critical mass as an independent creator in nonfiction is going so hard and so big that the establishment kind of looks at you and says, I think we need to I think we need to approach them. I think we should talk to them actually. Did you see what happened on the internet today?
It was about the weekend that Skinamarink came out that I was like, you know what? I think I just watched her video on the back rooms, which is really truly a triumph of ingenious storytelling from a very young voice. And I said that's going to be next. That's going to be the next one that gets picked up because yeah, there's some of the most innovative types of stories being told in this format. ARG, unfiction. ARG stands for alternate reality gaming, and I guess the best way I can explain it, if you haven't experienced it already, is it was created, I believe, after someone saw Michael Douglas in David Fincher's The Room, or not The Room, the what's it called, The Game, and they were like, I want to do that, so they created I Love Bees, and it became this sort of idea of immersing yourself in an alternate reality, which often includes different kinds of storytelling and different kind of medium jumping online. If you've seen the movie Under the Silver Lake, there's a lot of codes and ciphers and glyphs being hidden in that movie that I don't think that everyone's ever solved that. But I think we're seeing more and more of it in the mainstream. We can find it on Adult Swim when you see stuff like Wham City Comedy, This House Has People in It, Unedited Footage of a Bear. And Nick, you've been a huge proponent of Wham comedy. So can you tell me a little bit about like how you discovered them or unfiction in general?
Oh yeah. So
Mhm,
my discovery of nonfiction in general,
mhm,
actually it's very funny because you did mention I Love Bees, which was related to Halo,
mhm.
and touch on the topic of mainstream media kind of producing ARGs. And that is very much exactly how this went. The term alternate reality game comes from those who played the first major alternate reality game, which was attached to Steven Spielberg's AI artificial intelligence, where the concept of doing this wasn't even widely known yet. It was a huge promotional campaign that internally, the team doing the marketing who produced this thing were calling the Beast because nobody had done anything like it. And it was just so stupidly huge. Uh, and the first group of players that they had They call themselves the Cloud Makers, which I think was based off of a boat inside of the storytelling that there was a picture of that a character owned.
Oh
Uh,
my God.
and down the line, after they were done playing the game, they kind of assembled with each other. It's like, well, we just had a transformative life experience together on the absolute bleeding edge of storytelling and new media. So what do we do now? And they just kind of stood there in silence for a second online, I think. And somebody's like, you want to keep going? And so they started doing their own fan games. And eventually the idea of we need a term for what the hell it is we're doing kind of came around, uh and they came up with the idea of alternate reality game, which they felt was still a little bit clunky at the time.
Mhm.
But the hilarious thing about it is that the proponents of alternate reality games for a few years were the fans of AAA media projects that were playing with alternate reality games. And then those fans kind of spread the idea amongst themselves by doing fan games and with other people who were they were getting in on it as the internet developed and became more of a wild west for if you can make it at home, you can put it out there, where it shifted to the indie scene.
Mhm.
So ironically, as big as indie is the proponent and the lifeblood of this now, it started with establishment.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think my partner is also very into the Cloverfield, the ARG that came from Cloverfield, or was born out of it that you could sort of play around. And I remember that also happening to a lesser degree with Dark Knight, and I believe in
And
Harvey
those were
Dent.
my two. Those were
Yeah,
actually my two in
really.
regards to the previous question. Yeah, circling back to that,
Yeah.
that is where I got in was Cloverfield, because seeing that trailer in theaters just it left you with goosebumps. And when you looked it up, 11808.com, when you looked into that online scene, wow, there was nothing like it I had ever encountered. And the ability to just go through all these associated websites and find vlogs, find posts, realize there's a grander story here, that there's a movie occurring that you can access before the movie. Oh,
Yeah.
that was it was such a thrill. And everybody online was so into it. They were all sleuths. So that's how I got in, was the Cloverfield game.
Oh, that's so funny. I mean, it really does start make you start to look for patterns. I think that's what a lot of ARGs are. It's like, right, it's the human instinct to search for patterns and find clues in anything. And then the fact that this rewards you, and it rewards you in a community-based sense. So on the one hand, you do have this that it was born out of kind of marketing, and they're marketing these movies, but B, that there's some real creativity and people wanted to extend the game, extend the narrative, extend the fiction past the point of maybe even the original storytellers, ideas for what this narrative was going to be. I think of shows like, this era of 2014 TV, like True Detective was coming out, and everyone wanted to look for clues about the Yellow King. And although I wouldn't say that there was an alternate reality game aspect to it, I think that was kind of where I believe the mainstream started to start to understand it. That's also like when unedited footage of the Bear came out, and a bunch of these Adult Swim conversations began happening. You started realizing, oh, there's more to this than meets the eye, and maybe I can find somebody online to help me explain it. And you were that person for me.
Thank you. Yeah, natural human curiosity is one of the most delightful phenomenons that anybody can experience, because that relates to the idea that we have now with essays on YouTube about theories. I immediately think when you say True Detective like that and other shows where there's no attached element outside of the container, which is the traditional here's a TV show or here's a movie, sit down, watch that, there you go.
Yep.
But people still look at it, it's like, okay, but what if this means that? And what if this actually relates to this thing? And that innate curiosity, that immediate, almost innocent passion for the storytelling and the mystery therein is wonderfully infectious and delightfully human. It's like everybody still loves play. There is a wonderful curiosity that is still very alive today and finds its new outlets, and it spawns new things. It's kind of like the the way that wildflowers and new fruit trees just pop up all over the place because of how the seeds manage to make their way out into the world.
So, I mean, that's such a beautiful way of putting it. What were some of the earliest? You said you talked about Cloverfield, but and sorry, The Dark Knight. But what were some of the earliest fan made projects, or would you say like non like creative marketing kind of projects? Did you fall in love with? Because I remember finding Daisy Brown through you, like I said, Marble Hornets, a bunch of these projects that I don't think I Am Sophie that I would never have found anyway. And the way I describe your channel to people who've never don't know anything about Unfiction is it would be something that you would need to have an access door for. It's not, it's almost like a back door itself. The kind of projects that you cover are things that if you saw it on the internet just straight, you would have no idea what you were looking at and probably pass it by. And then you present these amazing sort of like detailed analysis and just discovery of the projects. And really what you do is you elevate these stories from being sort of unknown or secret, hidden sometimes narratives to being these widely watched, beloved stories in the scene. And I just want to know, yeah, what were some early inspirations for you in that space?
Thank you. It was Marble Hornets, actually, that was my gateway here because Slenderman was blowing up online. It was very early phase of Slenderman blowing up, and that kind of had me curious of like, what the hell is this thing? What is this monster that everybody is starting to reference here and enjoy? And so that immediately led me to Slender the Eight Pages, which was directly inspired by Marble Hornets. And Slender the Eight Pages, it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But a lot of this content is guys screaming at a
Mm-hmm.
video game. Not so hype about that, but this thing that inspired it, holy shit. I sat down and there were elements of it that reminded me of Cloverfield. I sat down and I had a laptop that I was watching it on. And I remember just out of curiosity, I started watching it before sunset. And then quickly, I found just, I was knee deep in it. The sun was going down. Soon enough, it was night, and I was still watching. I was so captivated because it was just some guys with a camera and whatever they could put together to make this all happen, recording this all, telling this incredibly engaging and atmospheric narrative. They did not have a lot, but they produced so much with it. And I was absolutely in love with it. And from there, I'm like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. Because I remembered around the time of the Cloverfield game, it's like, there's got to be more stuff like this. And that led me to the Dark Knight. And that led me to this discovery of the history of it with stuff like I Love Bees. So then I found the other Slenderman web series. I found stuff like Everyman Hybrid, which took the idea and said, hey, what if we do that, but a little bit differently? And we add in some new stuff of our own. And that was fascinating. And that's just, it kind of immediately led me to the concept of there's a whole world online here. And it's not like we were seeing at the time with creepypasta and the creepypasta narrators, which a lot of that was just, there is and always has been some wonderful creativity there, but a lot of it was very samey.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an obvious effort on YouTube at the time of that's what's big, that's what's hot, and it looks pretty easy. Let me be a creepypasta narrator. And it's just everybody was doing that. But this took so much more thinking, so much more bold initiative and creativity. And I was all about it.
I mean, that also speaks to some of the concepts here, are also the longevity of these projects. I remember, I think I first saw Marble Hornets, unless I'm crazy, in 2011 or thereabouts. Like that's when I remember watching these three guys like doing weightlifting videos or something, and all of a sudden it turned into a Slenderman story. And I don't know exactly how I found it, but I feel like that's around the era that I was looking at this stuff. So that series went on for many more years, and we got to watch these people grow not just as characters but as storytellers. And Everyman Hybrid, I believe, also colluded with them at one point, or they collided. I think that's what you call them, a nexus point, an inversion. Um,
Yeah, Everyman Hybrid, everybody outside of Marble Hornets,
mhm.
uh, they they really were a community in the sense of they loved it. They all loved Marble Hornets, and they loved what each other was doing. And they introduced a very novel concept that I have not seen since then. It was such a unique thing to this space. I'm not sure if we'll ever. I mean, we probably will because all things come back around eventually. But
Mhm.
they were the first to do collabs. They were the first to kind of basically have their characters say to each other, "Hey, bro, you're being stalked by this tall, faceless thing too. Let's meet. Maybe we could compare notes and just commiserate together." And you would watch these characters that you loved across these different series suddenly end up in crossover videos. It's like, yo, holy shit! They're on a couch together. Look at that. Look at that. And it was magical.
I mean, from a marketing perspective, going back to the marketing thing, I mean, that just makes sense, right? People love when crossover episodes happen. And if you're covering the same unfiction kind of project, I guess that would be the inevitable thing is swapping a crossover. But that does mean something that's very hard, I think, in traditional media to understand, which is like taking two creative visions of the same concept and allowing that to sort of develop organically or develop as a sort of game, almost like a pen letter, what are they called? Those cursed letters that you used to send in the mail.
Oh, chainmail, yeah.
Yeah, chainmail. It's like a version of that. I mean, Slenderman himself is a version of that. But the idea of like collaboration as a form of storytelling that was going to happen like in a almost improv-y yes and way, but still structured enough that you can continue on your own personal journey with it and your fans' personal journey of it. I can't think of any equivalent in like modern day storytelling.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now and just I had to visit it for myself a little while ago. It must have been some point last year where it struck me looking back of that was so special. And in my history of covering this, because I've done this for over 8 years now, and in that time I have not seen anything else like it. And I think that we're getting to a point now where, again, the sword cuts both ways. Whenever you think about anything brilliant with advances with unfiction and the way that it has developed throughout the years, giving people more access to tools online to do things without even having live action video.
Mm-hmm.
That has enabled a lot of people, but it has also created, I'm afraid now, a sense of isolation and the sense of appreciating each other very much from afar. And it's largely destroyed the collaborative aspect. Or at least that has fallen off. It's just I remember so much of the thrill about those early days and around the Slenderman content was how people got to know each other. They got to know each other in person. They did get to collaborate. There was a gung ho spirit of hell yeah, let's meet up. Why not? We're doing this crazy internet kid stuff. Life is insane right now, and why not be a little bit more insane? Let's meet each other. Let's do a crossover episode. Let's make friends out of our peers and revel in the fact that oh my god, we have peers.
I know it was one of the funniest aspects was during the pandemic. My dad was like, "Do you want to play an ARG with me that my friend created?" And I was like, "My dad's in his 70s," and I was like, "Okay, Dad, what is it?" And he's like, "Oh, it's like an occult summoning thing." I never ended up being a part of it, but I was like, "That's so cool." My father wanted me to do like one of these unfiction projects that his friend had written, and I was like, "That's definitely how you can tell it's been a high
Was it
watermark."
One Day Die?
What it was it? Maybe didn't end up participating because that seemed too freaky to do like a scary occult summoning with my father. But I should have been very Ari Aster-ish. It might have been.
I'm thinking it might have been if it was 2020
Yeah.
and it was an occult summoning.
Oh
Did it have
no.
anything to do with receiving a box?
Yes.
It was One Day Die.
What does One Day Die? You have to tell me
One
now.
Day Die. It was a very special project where it was teased up about this concept of receiving a box to perform a kind of summoning, to touch the other side and communicate with spirits. And it would be built up in the background through a website that would update piece by piece and an Instagram that would also update piece by piece and unveil kind of a bigger picture and really tease up this idea of what's in the box. What are we going to do? And then eventually you would be able to receive the box and then you would join in on a Zoom session
Yep.
with other people and you would all open the box at the same time.
This was absolutely the project. Oh my God. Wait, did I miss out on something huge here? I mean, and why did I have to hear this from my dad? One Day Die. Okay. I'll have to look it up. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. What makes these projects so interesting? I don't want to have spoilers for how this ended up going, but that's so cool. So I think, yeah, going back a little bit to the idea of when this stuff started crossing over, I think into Adult Swim is when I became aware of WHAM City, which is a Baltimore collective. I'm from outside of Baltimore in Columbia, Maryland. So they were hit near and dear to my heart. But unedited footage of a bear, and then their follow up, This House Has People in It, were the two big ones on Adult Swim, which is the after hours, Cartoon Network, like adult comedy stuff. It's where Aqua Teen and a lot of stuff that I've been watching since I was a kid was on. But there was something so bizarre and strange and subversive and compelling about that first unedited footage of a bear. And the second one, This House Had People in It, passed me by completely. I had to watch your 2-hour explainer of This House Has People in It to understand that there was more going on there than just surface level, weird like security footage, paranormal activity style stuff.
Yeah, that one was, oh boy. Every time that I think about This House Has People in It and the video that I made about it, talk about some divine timing. Because at that point, I was feeling a little bit of burnout just from the work that I was doing. The passion was not gone, but the sense of I need time. I need time to rest and recuperate and reload, get some energy back. And I was not free to be completely full time on Nightmind at that moment. I was still working to that point. But I had this sense of I need a week. So I did what most people do when they are in that circumstance and need a week is they schedule a week, and they schedule their precious week. And I just so happened to choose a certain week with no thought about it, no anticipation of what was going to happen that week, no clues whatsoever. And that just so happened to be the week that This House Has People in It came out. It snuck up on me, and I realized, holy shit, if I hadn't scheduled this, I could not chase this down the way that I need to right here, right now. I watched that happen live, and then I heard through everything that was happening online just how much people were seeing already from what was in there. And of course, I hunted it down. I looked through the footage, took a look, and put the pieces together with the website and the password that was within the film, opened it up, and I saw the site and just how much stuff there was in it. I was like, oh no, and oh yes. So I ended up, that entire week was spent just going after it and forming that video.
So that's really interesting to hear about, like the week that you scheduled off, because I think one of the big things that we can talk about in this space, especially when we talk to reaction comment of people in the reactor space, is just how intense the workload is, about how intense like the scheduling is, and how much of a life it takes up of you, and how long that can, be sustained for. And I know you recently made a video about the switching over and the types of formats you've done in the past 8 years, which has been these incredible, essay length, 2-hour long essays that like introspect, that like, investigate every single aspect of these stories. And it's in a very scripted format, and just doing something else sort of on a different medium. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and your decision to go there?
Yeah, the thing about it is that when you start this whole lifestyle and you have all the time in the world and all the availability to dedicate to being the person who makes these big, stupid, huge videos with everything that's entailed and these 40 minutes to an hour narrations that go into the video content and all the time that goes into cleaning up that audio, editing it, putting together the video, you live that life for a while. You do that.
Yeah.
Day in, day out, you enjoy it. You're just a singular person, or you are yourself in your current workflow and whatever ability that you have for that. And you build up your life. You get everything from it that you expect to get from it or hope to get from it. And over time, it's you put those things to work. Maybe you go out and you find a partner. You fall in love. You build a life together. You make more friends. You meet people who are online or offline, and they would like to see more of you. They would like to have more of your time. You
Mhm.
get to a point where you realize that you've done a lot of this for a lot of time now, and it's like maybe a little bit more of your life should happen at this point.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the practicality of, can you really keep up this pace and this workflow year in, year out? Don't you feel like something's giving way? Can you smell something burning? That burning smell is kind of mounting in between the candles you keep lighting and saying, I'm doing great. But you keep up that flow, and you have more things in your life now that you have built up and you have to sustain in order to be healthy, in order to be happy. And eventually you
Absolutely.
realize something has to give, that you can't keep going at the same pace that you had when you were the rookie with everything to prove and everything to gain, because then you do gain those things. It's kind of like looking outside into a whole patch of land in the backyard and saying, I want to build a garden. There should be a garden there. So you put in the work. You know, you go out there, you dig it up, you remove the rocks, you sow a whole bunch of things, you put up a little fence to keep it safe, you water it, you make sure that it was fertilized first, you water it, you maintain it, you guide everything that's going up. And it's just, when you build all of that, yeah, you do have to maintain it. And you also have to enjoy the fruits of the labor, you know? So in the end, it's just something has to change. Your workflow has to change. Your time commitment has to change. And over the past few years, I've recognized I could not keep constantly being that person where my entire life exists just to do these stupid, huge videos all the time. Like, the videos themselves not stupid, but the length, you look at them, it's like, wow. I wonder sometimes if the work that I've done over time has accidentally contributed to the culture of, here's a 5 hour video essay on something you did not give a shit about, but because it's 5 hours from somebody you respect, you'll sit down and watch it, and it will do banger in the algorithm. I can't help but wonder, did I contribute to that? Did I help fuck things up?
I mean, you may have led me down a couple weird rabbit holes. I will admit that there's a couple after I think Monument, the Monument.
Mythos.
Yeah, that definitely took me on a weird alt American history tour, and I do watch. I think I am more primed to watch long explainer videos after people like you and Jenny Nicholson, and people have just uncovered parts of the internet for me that I did not know existed. But yeah, there's a payoff there. I mean, one of the things I think is very interesting about video essayists such as yourself is, and just in general in the internet reactor space or video creation space, is there is no blueprint for how you can make a sustainable career, like a livable career, not just something where, yeah, you're going hard 24/7 and you're filling that, what I like to call like the gaping maw of internet content that's
Oh,
necessary to like
yeah.
just keep feeding it. Yeah. So there's no sense of like, okay, well, I worked really hard. Now I get a rest, or this is my reward, this is my promotion. Here's how I just, cool off or take an take a sabbatical or anything like that. You get no time off, or it hurts your algorithm. It hurts the amount of patrons you have. It can really affect how much income you're generating.
We do not get paid vacation here. We have
Nope.
to we have to earn that. We have to over earn it and know, okay, I really need a week off. I need 2 weeks off. Or at the point where you are really truly ready to be honest with yourself and have a good cry, uh, you understand, I need a month. I just need a month. And it's like, okay, have you earned enough where you will be safe and know that you can get back into the workflow to recover your lost momentum in the algorithm with a banger at the end
Hmm.
of that month that you take off? I've done it.
Absolutely.
I've done it recently. This past year, I decided, okay, enough is enough. It's time to start treating myself like a person a little bit. And so I took some time off. I enjoyed it. And I felt reinvigorated. I felt like, wow, I haven't felt a lot of these emotions in a while. I feel at peace. I feel like I'm going to be happy returning to my work.
Mhm.
And you know what it cost me? It
How much?
financially cost me because for a couple of months right after, I recognized, okay, I took time for myself to be a person, and now I'm playing catch up. And
Mhm.
then I realized, okay, if I'm going to commit to what I started for myself and trying to be a person, I need to change my approach. I need to experiment a little. I need to try doing things that are a little bit easier, but still deliver the goods because I can't let people down and I can't let myself down emotionally in that way. But I've
Mhm.
also got to make the bread and stay true to the whole don't you do it, don't you fall back into that workaholic mindset, you don't live like that anymore, you learned better, don't you relapse after you just went through a whole period of learning I can't live like this anymore. And just the hell of it is looking back and realizing there was no paid vacation that had my back. There was no I've put in all these years of work and it's just going to keep the momentum going while I take a
Mhm.
second to reorganize and reorient myself and think of a new way. And so along the path I've understood it's you cannot sacrifice your humanity.
Oh, that's a
So
great way
you've
of putting
got
it.
to yeah, you can't thank you. You can't sacrifice your humanity, but you also need to think of a way to do things that will work. And you also have to trust your experience. I've
Yeah.
realized through time through doing Nightmind is my experience of video crafting has made me faster. And I've got to trust that now that I don't have to do so much anymore and dread the idea of I'm going to be locked into this for 2 weeks. It's like, no, no, look at all the wins that you have over time where you got it done in just 4 or 5 days and you were good and you were allowed to live. Trust that. And I hope a lot of other creators out there recognize that too is you don't have to live grinding, grinding, grinding. Is look back and think about all the times where you managed to secure a win faster than you ever had before and then you did it again. That is your evolution as a creator.
That's such a beautiful, beautiful way of putting it. When we talk about the stuff that we care about over at Passionfruit, sustainability, in the sense of how do you sustain or how do you become a career creator, which means inevitably they're going to hit this moment where whether it's mentally, physically, health wise, or for whatever reason, life work, you're going to have to take some time off the internet, and you're going to have to recognize that the ways that worked for you before are not. It's either like there's the adpocalypse on YouTube or a new platform comes out or it's just some kids change the algorithm, but something's going to come along that's going to make it so no matter how hard you hustle and the energy does sap out of over the course of lifetime, you do get experience burnout, you're going to have to make some adjustments over to like how you do your workflow. And one of the things I've really loved watching for your channel especially is how you've managed to integrate the community aspect of what you do and how much your community really wants to play alongside you with the Twitch walkthroughs you've been doing. Welcome Home being a good example of one that I was just in the middle of before we started talking. But do you think if Twitch had been around when you were first starting out, that you'd been using that for your explorations, or would it always have been YouTube to start and then moving into the Twitch space?
I think it still would have been YouTube to start.
Mhm.
Because complete honesty, even a few months into actually get used to swimming around in the Twitch waters, I still only truly love this on the days that I'm doing Nightmind content.
Mhm.
Everything else about this, I'm just I'm getting used to there's an air about it of come on grandpa come play, it's okay to have some fun, it's okay to be silly and play some video games and go play and pretend to be these goofy haha characters and wink
Mhm.
wink nudge characters with other people doing the same. You don't have to be Mr. Nightmind all the time. And it's like, yeah, but it's the only thing that makes me feel like I'm doing something right. But I'd probably still be the YouTube guy first because I need that time to be in my office, to sit there or walk around with a coffee in hand and muse over something and obsess over something, write things down, put the pieces together, and come out with a strong presentation, a case every time that I make a Nightmind video, I am presenting a case, I'm presenting findings, and it's like, it is up for you. Is I'm not going to nail this in and say unequivocally I am right
Hmm.
100%, but everybody who goes into debate knows, okay, you might not get that 100%, but if you are damn sure that you're at 99, you better defend it up and down, left and right. And you better also be open for the moments where you are caught off guard and somebody makes a point, and you've got to roll with that point. Is you've got to be open to possibilities you did not expect. I am that kind of person to do all of that live all the time and have constant feedback back and forth while trying to be an entertainer. And that's just it. Is I never came here to be an entertainer. I am not here for your entertainment. You know, it's like that song lyric is just, I could scream that out loud sometimes. I could sing that with my whole chest. Is I'm not here for your entertainment. I am here to present art. I'm here to present amazing creativity and imagination and help people understand what their power is. So that means a lot to me to be able to craft those videos that deliver the goods in that full sense.
It's almost like I consider you very, when you're teaching me and showing me different things, I do consider like a very professorial or curatorial aspect to what you do. But you also are such an elevator of content. It's really interesting to watch something like Lasagna Cat or like again, I Am Sophie or Daisy Brown just become this bigger phenomena thanks to your like love of it and you bringing attention to it. So I guess another question or a way of framing it is with a lot of the stuff going on with the internet right now, it's a lot about, the DMCA copyright strikes and people issuing claims on other people's videos because they were reacting to it. Has that ever been an issue for you, or do you always go and ask the creators ahead of time if you can use their content? I know you're usually talking over it, but
Okay, so with what I do with Unfiction, because
mhm,
the majority of it is indie, I
mhm,
don't have that issue. And that's the beautiful thing, is that a lot of these creators understand, yeah, those assholes in the studio system who want to
mhm.
shoot down your content over 30 seconds of a clip, or God forbid you're reviving awareness of the media that then should have immediate turnover into rent purchases online or other things that relate to their bottom line. They really want to come in here and just rip things to shreds over you doing free promo for them. That's disgusting. We're not going to treat each other like that. Fuck that noise. I have lost an entire Twin Peaks video that was
No,
up for a while until and in anticipation of the third season. But when the
no.
third season was about to drop, guess who got kicked in the balls? Me. I lost that video online because they just wanted to eliminate wholesale anything on YouTube that had too much Twin Peaks in it.
That breaks my heart. As the world's one of the world's biggest Twin Peaks fans, I have several like was this the Meanwhile arm tattoos. I have a ton of taught a class on Lynch in college. The fact that that would happen with Showtime is in through Twin Peaks, which again is something that you're just generating hype for. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's that breaks my heart. I've heard stories of people who are reactors who've done like reactions to, I think DC properties, and then have been used in promotional materials only to find their videos struck down a couple days later. I think that's some of the most egregious examples of it. But yeah, I think there is a sense now of or a growing sense of will this happen with other creators like the Sniper Wolf incident or something akin where people just start copyright claiming each other's work, even if it's done in the best of intentions. So it's great to hear that that's not necessarily been something that you found in your work, your line of work.
Yeah, it's so much healthier out here. And it's a testament to the mindset that a lot of us have and the awareness that we have of, we are not this old school system. We are
Mm-hmm.
not this big conglomerate who has a black and white vision of defending our land. It's not what we are. It's not what we do. We are artists first and foremost. We are not suits. We do not like suits.
It's so funny. When we talk about things like this, I think of the term like world creator, which is what I used to call like the showrunners when I started TV download for the New York Observer in 2014. We seem to be this era of television where we could create whole worlds and have like a non-studio interference, or at least people would be able to create stuff from whole cloth, like True Detective or Fargo or any of the Adult Swim stuff, and just kind of be their own, president of that area of content. And I feel like it's a little bit less so now, especially in streaming. Hopefully, the strike might have solved for that a little bit, but it really did kind of shift to online. And so, with that, there's something about the transformative nature of internet materials like this, where you get to have a conversation with the audience, or with people like yourself that do analysis. Can you talk to me a little bit some of the examples that you've seen of people's art, like sort of reflecting a consensus, or at least addressing the consensus of the fans and of the work?
Oh, well, that's a huge element of Unfiction itself. Um, One of the issues that led to using the term unfiction as an umbrella term was everybody was calling all sorts of things ARG, which were not ARG. Alternate
Guilty.
reality game. It's okay. It's okay. But it's because we did not have an umbrella term and we did not have the understanding that was necessary at the time. Alternate reality game. If it's an alternate reality game, you need players. In order to have a story, there must be a form of play. That means that there must be immersion, there must be interaction. Not
Hmm.
everything that we have in this field that sounds and feels like that is a game. Sometimes it's a little bit interactive, other times it's just immersive.
Hmm.
But a lot of what we do in that, whether it's an interactive project or an immersive narrative, does incorporate the viewership. It does incorporate kind of community understanding and interaction. So you can have things where it's like you've got a vlog series, right? On YouTube, and you've got people in the comment section responding in universe,
Hmm.
with the understanding of, okay, I'm going to go ahead and comment as if this is actually happening and play along with the fiction, and they get played back with. The creator responds to them, they reply to them. Sometimes it is the actual act of the crowd and the feelings of the audience to whatever's happening that directly informs the flow of the narrative.
Can you think of like a couple examples of things that you've covered that have been like to you just greatest examples of that kind of transformative nature? I mean, when I think of something like Under the Silver Lake, the way you're describing it is that would not be an ARG because it is static thing in time, and whether or not people have solved for it, or can find the little Morse code and clues hidden throughout, it's a static piece of production, and it can't have a conversation with its audience, and therefore it cannot exist with play. But can you give examples of stuff that you do think incorporate it well?
Well, that actually could exist with play. You
Mm,
potentially could classify that as an ARG,
mm,
because it would then lend to a greater understanding of the story. The way that
mm,
I've categorized it is, all right, what the hell is an ARG then? It is anything that has an element of play or a
mm.
necessity of play to have a greater understanding of story or achieve the ending of a story in the first place. There's again, there's gray lines here, there's murky territory, but that's the way that I envision it is, do will you get the information or see an outcome without playing? If the answer is no, then it's ARG because a player was necessary to achieve the result. If it's buried treasure, someone must grab the shovel and dig. If somebody's digging, then out it comes. But some of the fun examples that I've seen. Oh boy, talk about
Yeah.
consequences. The series 10 tapes, which was TikTok based, that was a big one. And the end of that series had a big choice for the audience. The audience was directly faced with a choice uh, of what to do in a situation based on the narrative and everything that they understood. And they chose, and the creator just kind of sat there in the aftermath like, you really chose this, guys? You really let me down here. Well, holy shit, you got to live with it now. Here's your outcome. Boom.
It's like a choose your own adventure that went in the wrong direction with the group consensus.
Yes, exactly. We've had other moments where the the love and the support from the crowd, like in Hi, I'm Mary Mary, directly led to a very positive outcome for the central character. You have these projects where sometimes it is, in fact, the crowd's ability to respond or to
Mhm.
simply be there that influences things because the character is aware. That's what we're doing when it comes to being immersive, and it's unfiction, which is the whole this is not a game, wink wink nudge nudge, it is
Mhm.
unfiction. Yeah, it's fiction, but it's not, but it is. And so that not part of it is everybody's playing along, we're all larping, we're all larping, and that central character is more or less aware of you, aware of the audience, the crowd in general, and the efforts, and that's going to contribute to something a lot of the time.
I mean, that's very, again, I'm just in the middle of it, so no spoilers, but that is very welcome home. And the idea of this lost footage that is now becoming aware of, or it's coming in some sort of sentience based on people's understanding of it and it getting revived as a project, which I think is very cool. And yeah, I mean, the difference then, I think, as you're saying it, is between an Easter egg, say, or like just some hidden media and what an ARG or unfiction, I think, is, or as you're describing it, although maybe I'm not parsing the difference right, is that one of these things, the story can exist without it. It's just fun little side little things to help you out. And if you get the reference, great. If not, doesn't hurt the story. Or it doesn't like help create a bigger sense of the narrative or an alternate narrative. Whereas with ARGs, it's like, okay, you can watch this one way, or you can add on these contextual clues, or like a Pynchon novel, you can, or House of Leaves, you can add on all these clues and give yourself a different understanding of what the story could be.
Yes, exactly. Every ARG is unfiction. Not all unfiction are ARGs. That's the way to think about it because you just got it exactly right. Is if it's immersive, if it's interactive, and even if it's just I'm telling a story through unconventional means and doing stuff that nobody else really does, it classifies as unfiction. Sometimes it's not even truly immersive. Sometimes it's just as strange and odd and new as Mandela Catalog, for instance, or Kane Pixel's Backrooms, where it's like, wow, nobody does this. And there is no immersion factor. There is no interactive factor. That's how much unfiction has grown. The idea of, listen, man, fuck a studio, fuck a traditional system. Just do your thing, tell a story, be creative. But those interactive elements, those play elements, you got it right.
I mean, I think of projects like also Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, which I believe, like, in no small, that's not me gassing you up, in no small part, thanks to you, has had a revival years later because your video of like this sort of internet phenomena, like British puppet show thing, kind of became enough for a Channel 4 series that went in a totally different direction from the original web stuff, but came about, what, like a decade after they originally uploaded. And I was definitely one of these people that was obsessed with it when it came out, but your video about Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared has as many views, I think, as any particular one of those original series.
Thank you. They were definitely headed for that destiny well before the height of its coverage. Because just they were that fantastic. I I loved that whole endeavor. Oh boy, that was like
It's a lifestyle choice.
it was a
So,
lifestyle choice for me to have done that. That was the biggest beast that I had conquered in a while, and I set out to make sure it's like I'm going to hit this as hard as I can, and I'm going to do some absolutely insane. You really committed here, didn't you? It's like all right, but it had to be because I just I took a look at what they did creatively and
mhm.
how huge the impact was. And I felt that call of step up, step up.
Yes.
If you're the guy that's going to include a little bit of theming in all the topic videos where you really love what's going on, step up. You know,
Mhm.
this is a huge one. So I built the puppets, I built the set. I had to. I had to recreate it in some sense and let the theming work with my coverage. I could not refuse that opportunity. And I'm glad because it's still like that is a tent pole of my history now. And I still look back on it fondly. And it's one of those moments where it's like whenever I need to check in with myself of can I do this? And also what is the prevailing spirit of what I do? I look back and I say, you made that Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared video. You
Yes.
still have that puppet.
Oh,
You can do
that's
this.
such a beautiful way. That's such a beautiful call to action too. I think there's a sense of like, well, it's criticism, it's not art, right? That's what they say when you're doing any kind of review. It's like, well, if you could do it, you would have done it yourself. So this is just critics being critics. But what you've done, I think, with a lot of these videos is transform the analysis or criticism into its own form of art. I mean, there must be people that would just react to your videos of analysis of things like I Am Sophie or something that exists on TikTok or these other play formats. Soma, your Soma review is great. But Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. When I watched it, I had watched the original series. Your review of it gave me not only a totally different understanding of what the actual concepts and themes of that project was, but just like a sense of like, yeah, you'd built all these puppets to sort of to pay respect to the art and give yourself like its own artistic license to discuss the project. And I think that's really a beautiful elevation of the idea of criticism or analysis on the internet. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
Have you ever gotten feedback about your sort of bringing a project up or bringing attention to it that has really felt like it kept inspiring you or kept you kind of going in those darker moments of burnout? Any sort of a reaction from the creators or fans?
Oh yeah. If I go through too many of these moments, I'm gonna end up like crying. But I think one of the first moments that I ever had, that shook me, and it still stays with me. It just shows the impact that you can have. I had a Facebook message one time from a guy who was stationed overseas, and he explained that one of the only things that kept him feeling connected to home was watching my videos, which I had never anticipated that somebody who could be in my crowd was a soldier overseas, stationed somewhere in another country, day in, day out, performing the duties and just having these little moments of being able to stay in touch and keep a sense of home and keep a sense of normalcy. And his
Yeah.
profile picture had him and a baby, which
Oh.
I realized just through looking at his whole deal that was available. It's like, oh my God, this isn't just a soldier. This is a new father away from home. And it made an impact. Like it resonated so hard of this is what we can do for people.
Mhm.
And I've had so many other moments since like that of receiving messages or being made aware, especially from hopeful creators. And that's the reason that I keep going even when shit sucks. It's why I have fought through burnout so many times beyond just I have a life that must be maintained now and the algorithm does not leave your side. It's that knowing of this means more than entertainment for some people.
Mhm.
And even if they are the smaller crowd in the viewership, it means more. There is an impact. I get feedback a lot from creators now who I cover. And
Mhm.
since I've done the Twitch side of things, I've had creators pop up in the chat as I'm covering their work, which is very different from having them in the comment section or
Mhm.
receiving a message afterwards, after I put out a video of them just being like, I can't believe that this happened. I was hoping one day that it might, but to see it actually happen, but to see them there, to
Mhm.
actually acknowledge them live and have a laugh with them or praise them live and have them have that raw feedback it is so it's so affirming of
Hmm.
what it is that I do. And it's like, even when this hurts, even when this life sucks sometimes, and the comments that you see in the first 30 minutes, half of it are people memeing or crying first or daddy's here. It's like it's like whatever. Compared to that moment of you helped confirm for somebody who was bold enough to try, this
Hmm.
was worth it and I am seen. That's what makes Nightmind worth doing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, that is the idea of what I used to call the purple rose of Cairo effect of the transformative malleability of a screen. That feeling of you're being seen by the creator, by the world that you're trying to look, whatever the opposite of a Mary Sue is, where they come out of the world and they recognize the work that you and the love you've put into seeing a project through. Um, that's just must be such an amazing feeling. I do want to end with, a little anecdote of my own here as we wrap things up, but like you were such a important part of why I got into the creator space at all, and why I'm doing this project now of Passionfruit, which is that I was involved with something called the Movie Trivia Schmodown, and it was sort of half game show, half kayfabe, like wrestling kayfabe. And I created a character called Video True, and I just modeled it all on the kind of stuff I was watching on Nightmind. And my idea was always, what if like I could get like the Nightmind coverage of this character, and it really actually created like a performance art narrative that a lot of people like responded to, and I was so surprised, and I realized it's because I was trying to create like a narrative based on something beyond just this, like the game itself. I was trying to create like this sort of meta narrative of a character and like what her backstory was and how weird she was, and it was all because of discovering projects like Daisy Brown and just all the ones that I'd seen of yours before that was just so inspiring, and that got me into the creator space, and of course recognizing the issues of creator labor that we're seeing today. So you were a big inspiration for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And in turn, while 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 it never might have appeared on Nightminds, I do have to ask you this. In the course of everything that you did in creating that character and living that life and exploring that, did you feel yourself and your world and understanding grow?
Yes, I'm a different person than I was when that came out. I mean, I was somebody who was very lost when I started that project. I was in the middle of moving across countries, and I didn't really have a sense of like who I was in the world anymore. I describe it a lot like Ari Aster's like Midsommar. Like I was very much starting out from that place of everything has been wrecked, and I found a community and a family and an understanding of my own creative abilities through that project. And even though itself, it was not the game show itself wasn't always the most conducive to narrative storytelling. It was, after all, a game show with winners and losers. The friends I made along the way, Tom, my first partner, I was just on his podcast last week. The friends I made along the way really transformed things, and now I'm working with the editor of that show. He's now the editor of Passionfruit, and this is our house. These are our dogs. So absolutely, my life is transformed, and I think I have the confidence now to do something more creative and weird and strange than I ever did before it came along and I created that character. Although I have to admit, I also have had editors in the past and people I knew from New York being like, "You got to cut that out. Like people think you've gone crazy," because I changed my whole social media identity to be this character, which in retrospect, not always the smartest thing to do when you're playing somebody so profoundly weird and bizarre as this character was.
And they say that you needed to cut that out for X, Y, and Z from their perspective, but not being on the inside of it and not being you, they have failed to understand the growth, the experience, the aha moments of what you are capable of and what you have been able to do for and with other people as a result of going against the grain and daring to do more.
Nick, this must be showing me interviewing you. Don't make me cry during this. um, well, this
Sorry.
is just so wonderful. No, it's great. But this has just been such a wonderful conversation. And I would love, and I'm sure people would love to just hear more about that Twin Peaks game or whatever you have going on. So where can people find your work these days?
They can find me on Nightmind over on YouTube, and I am Nick_Nocturne over on Twitch. Anybody who is potentially familiar with my monster cat appearance will be a little bit thrown for a loop over on Twitch, but hopefully not for terribly much longer. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. But I'm a shapeshifter, so I can have many appearances.
I think I was trying to get in on the original plushie run of the cat that you represent, and that was like in 2019, and I really wanted one, and I somehow missed out on it. But yeah, congratulations to you and all your success in this space, Nick. You are such an inspiration for a lot of us, and yeah, just just can't wait to see what you do next and keep that wonder alive. Thanks, guys. Continue to follow us on Passionfruit. We'll be here every week. We have the Reactorverse, as you know. We have a couple different series coming out. We have an interview with Nick Nocturne, and recently we just did React on Titan, which is the first of our crossover event series, getting different reactors to speak about one's particular subject in a room all together, or at least virtually. This has been Drew Grant, and thanks. Have a good time. Bye.
3, 2,